Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. We are Broca's Polyglots, and we are going to talk to you about neurotechnology. So first, we're going to open it up for a question. So when you hear neurotechnology, what comes to your mind? What are the first things you think of? Maybe specific technologies or practices that we use in the field? And you can just leave those in the chat. Robotic arms, yep, that's one for sure. Have a neural connection. So yeah, all that kind of stuff. Elon Musk, yep, one of the most known people in the field is Elon Musk, especially with something we're going to talk about in this very presentation. So let's get started. So what is neurotechnology? So what it really works to do is further connect technology and the nervous system, and they use AI, machinery, and scientific processes to do this. And the purpose of it is basically to treat things in the brain and to also rehabilitate the brain after neurological issues occur. And a fun fact about neurotechnology is it's only about half a century old, which in terms of any sort of medicine is very, very young. So it's a very developed field right now. Within the last 20 years, actually, development has spiked a ton. So neurotechnology is definitely a field you might want to think of if you are going to pursue a career in neurology.
So how is neurotech used? At first, we use it for monitoring our brain functions. Like we can use scans like CT, MRI, fMRI, EEGs, etc. All of them are neuroimaging techniques. They are being used to detect electrical impulses from the neurons, and we can monitor their function. We can effectively diagnose different neurological problems, brain and heart conditions, tumors, or cancers. Neuroimaging techniques are the major shareholder in the neurotechnology market now. And for the modifying our brain function, we are having different technical systems like Neurolink, stent rod. So let me talk about them a little. Neuralink enables people with paralysis directly use their neural activity to operate computers and mobile devices with speed and ease. And for the stent rod one, it is fully implantable medical device that can stimulate the nervous system without open brain surgery. These technologies can improve our memory and boost brain activity. Then we have our improved functions. This can extend our brain function using transcranial stimulation, which is a non-invasive way of stimulating or inhibiting brain activity with electrical impulses.
So one of the examples of monitoring the brain is by using an electroencephalogram, which is an EEG machine, and it's part of brain imaging, but it works. Its aim is to detect abnormalities in the working of the brain by sensing brain signals. And basically, you have about 100 small electrodes attached to your scalp, and they're all infused in this electrolyte gel. And what's really interesting is it takes about 8 minutes to get a baseline. So kind of like the basic working of your brain. So for example, you would have to stare at a dot in space for 8 minutes so they can settle the baseline, and then based on that carry some research. And now I would like to ask everybody, if you're comfortable with sharing that, to raise your hand using the small raise hand button down below if you're right-handed. So all the participants. We're getting some people. I think that the majority of us are right-handed. So that means you would be more likely to be asked to participate in an EEG in an EEG trial or EEG research than people who are left-handed. It is because left-handed and right-handed people, the learning processing is a bit different, and depending on which hand you use. Depending on which hand you use, and it's much easier for the scientists to focus more on the right-handed people, as the percentage of people, right-handed people, is much greater than left-handed people. So if you ever would like to try EEG, know that you're eligible. And also left-handed people as well. They're wanting to do more research now, also involving left-handed people.
Yeah, and to explain a little more about EEGs in a bit more detail, we have a quick 2-minute video from 2-Minute Neuroscience, which is something that we've watched before, a little more about them. So let me know if the sound works. I'm pretty sure I'm sharing sound. Yeah, I hope we're all excited to watch this video.
Electroencephalography, or EEG, is a technique used to measure the electrical activity of the brain. In EEG, electrodes are most commonly placed on the scalp of a patient, primarily to detect the electrical activity of neurons in the cerebral cortex. Typically, EEG does not record the activity of single neurons, but rather detects the signals created when populations of neurons are active at the same time. It mostly records signals from small areas of the brain surrounding each electrode. EEG is primarily measuring postsynaptic potentials, or changes in membrane potential that are elicited by neurotransmitters binding to receptors on the postsynaptic membrane. EEG provides an image of electrical activity in the brain represented as waves of varying frequency, amplitude, and shape. It can be used to measure brain activity that occurs during an event, like the completion of a task or the presentation of a stimulus, or to measure spontaneous brain activity that happens in the absence of a specific event. The typical electrical activity that occurs in association with an event is sometimes referred to as the event-related potential. There are a number of clinical applications of EEG. For example, it is commonly used to diagnose epilepsy and characterize seizure activity, to monitor sleep for the diagnosis of sleep disorders, and in efforts to diagnose or provide information about a variety of other types of brain dysfunction. While there are many advantages to using EEG, such as its low cost and ability to measure brain activity on the order of milliseconds, there are some limitations as well. For example, because EEG monitors activity in large groups of neurons, it is difficult to pinpoint activity seen using EEG to a precise location in the brain. And it records the activity of neurons in the cortex, but is limited in its ability to accurately record activity in deeper structures of the brain.
Fantastic. So I hope you guys found that video a little helpful and informative. And the next, I guess, neurotechnology related product that we touched on as a group is under the category of modifying your brain activity. And this is when implantable devices like Neurolink come into the playing field. So if you guys don't know who Elon Musk is, he's like the guy who runs Tesla, SpaceX, a lot of other companies. And yeah, so I guess a little bit of background on Neuralink. It is a neurotech company founded by a lot of people, but in particular Elon Musk and Max Hodak. And they kind of founded this company in 2016, but faced a bit of criticism due to animal testing on their implants. So what are their implants? They're basically devices that are inserted into the brain in hopes of wirelessly connecting your brain to devices like your smartphone and kind of bridging that robotics and like human gap. And this would allow people to more easily use electronic devices and be more efficient in their communication. For example, if you're typing something, I guess another goal of Neuralink is to be able to translate your thoughts directly to an electronic device without having that in-between motion of physically typing it out. So everything would just be, I guess, in your head, which is really interesting, but also kind of scary if you think about it. Yeah, so I guess Neuralink right now is kind of in its startup phase for a couple of years. And in the future, they're planning to have a couple more clinical uses rather than just, I guess, more efficient communication. And they're thinking that this could be a potential drug replacement in the future, since it is like it can control certain aspects in your brain and could potentially be kind of a cure for certain, I guess, like psychological or neurological diseases. And we also have another quick, like 2-minute video explaining a little bit more about how Neuralink works and in this Neuralink robot. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy.
The first and most immediate need for a robot is to be able to manipulate these threads and insert them into the brain.
So the implant is kind of like this little puck of the secret sauce active electronics, and the electrodes are these tiny little flexible threads that each at the very end have multiple little electrodes that if you get those electrodes next to a neuron, they can record what that neuron is doing.
The nature of the device that we're implanting and the way that we're implanting it allows for minimal reaction of the brain tissue to our device to increase the lifetime. In order to do that, the devices are extremely fragile.
The threads that we insert that contain the electrodes are tiny, sort of on the order of 50 microns wide, 5 microns thick, 20 millimeters long. And so if you take one of them and sort of toss it into the air, it'll sort of float off like a piece of hair.
And those tiny little flexible hairs are too small for a human to handle, even with tweezers, and that's where the robot comes in.
Computer vision and software, essentially high reliability software, is really important. We've gone from not really being able to track the moving brain, which is critical for humans because the human brain moves a lot, to having this OCT-based system that essentially gives us this 21 hertz real-time view of a 3D volume of the brain that we're looking at. What you're trying to do is very fine computer vision tasks and movement tasks to grab these threads. It's an extremely hard engineering problem.
I would say the next big goal for the robot would be to make it so that there's minimal neurosurgeon interface, that a neurosurgeon can walk in and talk to the patient, make them feel comfortable about the procedure, walk them through exactly what's going to happen, and then essentially click go. And the robot will be able to figure out exactly what the specific topography of the patient will be, target the areas, and take the surgery from the patient coming in and sitting down to them walking out of the door that same day.
If we make this so automated and safe and fast that anyone can get it, even the idea of really fast keyboard and mouse for myself that I don't need to use my hands for is super alluring.
I'm excited for the robot to help a human patient restore someone's motor function that they lost. That would be super cool. Over the last 3 years, Neuralink has felt like it has grown from a garage project into a real product.
Not only do you get to work on robots, but you also get to interact with other people who don't typically use robots.
I knew nothing about neurosurgery before coming to Neuralink. I can come in as a robotics expert and know that there are neurosurgeons here, neuroscientists here, who essentially can act as my knowledge base for neurosurgery and neuroscience. That's why I think it's the place to be.
And another of the neurotechnological devices that we would like to introduce you to today are very innovative headphones, the Neurable headphones, which basically work like regular headphones. You can use them in a normal way meaning listen to music or talk through the phone. However, they also work like a mobile EEG machine. They have these little sensors embedded in the cloth part of the headphones here, and they can sense the brainwave patterns of the user, which then can be sent to an app on your phone. And these sensors detect, for example, whether a person is concentrated, whether a person is stressed. They can monitor happiness levels. They can also monitor how much water a person drinks, how much a person laughs. And all that goes to an app on your phone, and then the phone can turn on the do not disturb mode, or it can inform the user via messages that they need a bit of rest, and it can also inform other people that that person is not available at the time, and give them a bit of a time for themselves to work on their concentration and maybe work on their well-being.
Yeah, and right here we have another video. It's just explaining a bit more about how Neurable works from kind of like their perspective as a company.
What if you could boost productivity and focus just by understanding your own brain? Meet N10 from Neurable, the smart headphones that tell you how and when you work best. N10 gives you scientific insights into your brain that help optimize your productivity and block out distractions. Whether distractions prevent you from getting through an onslaught of tasks, or you want the focus to make your aspirations a reality, N10 helps you stay focused on what matters most and win back time in your day. When you focus, your brain cells produce electrical signals. N10 has cutting-edge, soft EEG sensors woven into the ear cushions that detect these signals and interpret them using advanced signal processing algorithms. The Neurable app then translates your brain activity into data and insights that are practical and easy to understand. With N10, track how specific activities impact your focus and dive into trends that show when and where you focus best. Build better habits so you can optimize your day and avoid burnout. Plan certain tasks around your peak concentration times, and schedule breaks for when you naturally struggle to focus. You can even learn what music keeps you in the zone. While you listen to your playlists on your favorite music apps, N10 will track which songs help you focus and offer recommendations for what to listen to when. These headphones adapt to you, learning what impacts your concentration and sharing real-time advice based on your cognitive state. N10 will prompt you to take a break when you need to restore your energy and focus. Or, when you're in the zone, N10 will automatically cancel background noise and block notifications to keep you from getting distracted. Your privacy is our priority. Your data and personalized insights belong to you, are stored safely, and will never be sold to anyone else. Neurable is a group of leading neuroscientists, engineers, and veterans of the consumer electronics industry, with 27 patents granted or pending. N10 is only the tip of the iceberg of how Neurable can apply incredible science to improve your daily life. Future software updates will enable you to measure emotional states beyond focus, add new controls to your computer or mobile phone, and provide insights into the health of your mind and body. Support Neurable's campaign and help make frontier technology a part of everyday life. N10 from Neurable. Focus on what matters.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about 3 different really interesting technologies related to neurotechnology. And before we move on into our next section, I think it would be really interesting to hear what area of neurotech. So that would be monitoring your brain, monitoring your brain function, modifying your brain function, or improving your brain function. Like, which of those 3 areas seems the most interesting to you, or the most intriguing, important? Which one of those areas stood out to you the most? We'd be interested to hear. And yeah, you can just throw your answers in the chat. Yeah, honestly, for me, all 3 categories seem super interesting, but I'm glad that you guys are finding certain sections really intriguing. And I think even though this field is relatively new, I think that these different sections, these different subsections in neurotechnology will probably just grow even more over the next 5 or 10 years. So yeah, I think these are definitely areas to look out for. And then next up in our slideshow, I'm sorry, let's see. Okay, yeah, we're on the right. Are we on the right slide? There we go. Okay. So next up, after explaining a couple of technologies to you guys, we're going to introduce to you a couple experts or famous people, well-known people in the field of neurotechnology. So I'd first like to introduce, I'm sure you already know these people, at least one of them in particular, but this might seem a bit unexpected coming from somebody who designs cars and throws them into space. But Elon Musk seems to be a relatively big contender in the neurotechnology field, along with Max Hodak, which are the two co-founders of Neurolink, which is one of the technological products that we talked about a little bit before. So a little background on what each of them do. So Elon Musk, I'm sure you already know this. He's an industrial engineer and also an entrepreneur. And I guess as a little interactive bit, you can throw in to the chat, what's one of Elon Musk's, I don't know, like maybe companies? What, if you think of Elon Musk, what is like the first thing you associate him with? Because I feel like he's covered such a broad range of, I guess, like different fields, and it would be interesting to see what you guys immediately relate him with, because neurotechnology is not, for me, something that I would personally link him with. Yeah, it would be really cool to hear that. And yeah, I'll like read over exactly. Yeah, like Tesla in space, same for me. Yeah, and then next, the president. I'm pretty sure this is the current president of Neuralink, Max Hodak. He is a technologist and also an entrepreneur, one of the co-founders of Neuralink. So a little more on the neurotechnology related work for these two people. They co-founded Neuralink back in 2016, like I mentioned before. And I guess the whole purpose of Neuralink is to create implants to optimize, I guess, neurological disease treatments short-term, and also make it a lot easier to kind of combine that human mental mind with like robotics to kind of beat the AI race, if that would, I guess, since that is kind of another thing that is coming into the field, AI, and kind of combating that with neurotechnology is, I guess, one of their goals as well. And a cool feature about these implants is that they would not require extensive surgical incision, which I guess is another upside in case that is something you'd be interested in. And yeah, and then a quick fast fact about one of Neuralink's achievements is that they successfully implanted a chip into a monkey to play Pong. I saw this in my YouTube recommendations a little while back, and I watched it, and I thought it was like both really interesting and also a bit frightening. But yeah, if you guys, I can play a couple seconds of this video if you want. And if you search up monkey plays Pong with Neuralink implant, it shows up as well. So here's a video.
This is Paja. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learned to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. As he's playing this game, we're wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Paja still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity. One of the things the Neuralinks allow Paja to do is to play his favorite video game, Pong. To control his paddle on the right side of the screen, Paja simply thinks about moving his hand up or down. As you can see, Paja is amazingly good at Mind Pong. He's focused, and he's playing entirely of his own volition. It's not magic. The reason Neuralink works is because it's recording and decoding electrical signals from the brain.
yeah, and that's a little bit more about how Neuralink would work and how it like works in like real life and how they actually got this to um, effectively make a monkey play Pong with his mind. I think this would all like, I guess there are ethical concerns behind this as well, which is something that our article looked into. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be one of the bigger technological developments in the years to come. So yeah, I would definitely keep an eye out on something like this in the future.
So next up we have Thomas Oxley. He's an interventional neurologist as well as the chief executive of neurology at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. He's the founder of Synchron, which is a clinical stage neurovascular bioelectronics medicine company. He also helped to develop the Centrode, which basically is just a brain computer. Imagine like a computer chip. It's just implantable in the brain to help paralyzed people gain mobility and stuff like that. Some of his achievements are the UNESCO Next Step, No Text Flow Award for Innovation. And in 2018, he had earned the Innovator of the Year award from the Congress of Neurological Surgeons. He went to the University of Melbourne and actually earned an award for their team-based research. He also has the Australian Eureka Prize, which is an interdisciplinary scientific research. He has been very impactful in the field of neurology, and he himself is a neurologist, which causes him to know a lot more about how the brain functions, and he works with engineers to actually create the technology to help people. So for our next slide, we'll have careers, but I was wondering what you guys, if you were to go into the neurotechnology field, what would you guys want to go into? Do you have any jobs that you think you would like in that field? Maybe to do with engineering, if you want to think of our 3 top things where you have monitoring, modifying, or oh my gosh, I can't remember the other word. Like those 3 things that we have, there's people who, yes, improving, thank you. We have those main topics. So we have designers, we have people who are actually using the products. Do you guys have anything that you want to drop into the chat as to what you would like to do in neurotechnology, if that's what you're interested in? Nothing? You guys aren't into neurotechnology? Come on, guys. All right, that's fine. We'll give you a few ideas on our next slide. All right, so Gerline is into mapping the brain and understanding how damage can affect cognition. Okay, Vanessa with caring people with brain injuries. I think those are really cool. I personally have Tourette's and would love to find something that can help to get rid of tics, and so that way I'm not, looking like I'm having a seizure every 2 seconds. So I think that the modification is really interesting as well. If we want to go to the next slide. So some career opportunities that we have, there's technical design engineers who are actually creating the products. Research scientists are mainly for actually, neurology, finding out what needs to go where, which neurons we need to project our technology to. We have the technician who's actually learning how to build the specific technology, helping out the design engineer, neurologist and neurosurgeon. Those are, we all know about them. We have that doctor versus the surgeon. So those kind of help with our 3 main topics. So we have the research scientist and technician who are working on figuring out how we need to make stuff in order to have technology to help ourselves. The actual design engineer is creating the product, and then the neurologist and surgeon are using the product to help people.
So if you wanted to learn more about neurotechnology, we have some additional research as Neurotechnology Center at Columbia University, Scientific American Technology. We have a TED Talk of Tim Moreland talking about neurotechnology. And we also have Neurotech 6 and the Brain Initiative. We also have this. So if you want to learn more about, you can go to this additional research.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening to our presentation. And I hope that you guys have learned a little bit more about neurotech or have sparked an interest in potentially some different pathways that you can take. So yeah, we're open to questions now in case you have any to ask. Thank you guys so much for hanging in with us.